What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the You Know Ball podcast. I am your host, Trill Bro Dude, and today I am very excited to do one of probably the most unhinged podcasts we're ever going to do, which is talking about the Bill Simmons and Ryen Russillo expansion draft. The influence of YKB, obviously. We did our first expansion draft podcast almost a year ago, about 10 to 11 months ago. We did the first one back last September. We did our Ball expansion draft, which is one of the funnier and more unhinged episodes of the show if you have not checked it out already. So go check that out as well. And we're going to do our second annual one sometime next month. It takes a lot of preparation and work to go into that kind of podcast, unless you're Bill Simmons, who seemingly threw this together at the last second based on our first listen. I didn't know if we were going to be able to get 2 hours out of this, but we'll certainly be able to talk for 2 hours about this 1 hour podcast, because that's what we do best here at Ball.
That's true. We love, Bill is a heavy influence for us. And what I like about this podcast is because it's the off season. And I don't know if Russillo is just getting more comfortable, but Russillo it seems to be getting meaner to Bill every
100%.
season. And I really enjoyed how mean Russillo was to Bill on this podcast.
Oh yeah, he was letting him have it. It was great. Yeah. Before we get into the expansion draft, before we talk about the Bill and Russillo expansion draft, I have some very good news from Underdog, which is that on Underdog right now, you can do the pick 'em. Actually, they just went live in Colorado today, and I will be visiting Colorado later this month, so I'm very excited about that. But if you go on Underdog right now, use the promo code STOP to get a $100 deposit match. You can do picks for the NBA season. And the way that they've laid this out, I actually really like this, because I was worried about, when making these kind of picks for the upcoming season on Underdog, that we were going to have to do a total points higher or lower, which is impossible to predict, because the NBA, obviously injuries are random, but also load management. You really don't know how many games a guy is going to play over the course of a season. So thankfully, Underdog has added their averages. So it's just averages, points per game, rebounds per game, and assists per game. And we're going to make some picks right here. There was one I thought was I felt like it was pretty obvious. They have a few big names up here right now. They have Victor Wembanyama, LeBron James.
Can I just say the higher on 18.9 points for Kristaps average is really juicy, because he's going to be good when he plays. He just might play 18 games.
How many points per Google? How many points he scored last year? I'm curious, because there are some that I felt as though, like Jason Tatum is 28.7 points per game.
That's way too high.
He averaged 30 points per game last year.
I don't know.
I know you're a Tatum hater, but you're the resident Jason Tatum hater here. But 28 points as a Celtics fan.
Yeah.
28.7 points per game for a guy that just averaged 30 a game. And honestly, I think he's going to have more offensive creation tasks next year.
His assists are going to go up. I'm not sure his points are going to go up, but
okay.
They need him to create. Now that there's no Marcus Smart, nobody else can do anything with the fucking basket.
Okay, so let's just say the year before he averaged 26.9.
Okay.
Then he averaged 30 last year. Even if you split the difference there, you're coming close to this number of 28.7. Sure. I kind of think that I would be surprised if Tatum averaged less than 29 points per game next year. In the new NBA, 30 points per game is like scoring 25 points per game. It's really not as much as you think. There were 8 guys that did it last year.
Porzingis scored 23.2 last year.
23.2. Okay, so
and 18.9. I feel like that's a lock to me.
Okay, so we'll go 18.9. I don't think you could do 2 guys on the same team.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't. So we won't do Tatum. We'll have to pick someone else here. Mm-hmm. There are a few guys. I ran through the list pretty quickly. Josh Giddey's 6.3 assists per game was interesting to me. I feel like he's going to go higher on that.
Halliburton higher on the assists per game is pretty juicy too. I feel like he's going to lead the league.
Okay, he had 9.7 assists per, or he has 9.7 assists per game. If I remember correctly, he averaged like 10.8 last year.
Yes, he did. Yep.
Okay. All right, so we'll go higher on Tyrese Halliburton's assists as well. I think that offense is just going to be crazy once again. Ton of pace, a lot of assists for Tyrese Halliburton. So if you go on Underdog today and you throw $30 on Kristaps Porzingis higher 18.9 points per game and Tyrese Halliburton higher 9.7 assists per game, you can win up to $90 on Underdog. If that hits, use the promo code SLOP, supports the program, all that good jazz. So check it out if you have not already. So let's get into this expansion draft that, once again, we did the expansion draft last year, and I feel like I want to be kind of easy on them when it comes to this, because we found out it's a pretty hard exercise to do. There's a lot of thought that goes into it, and then you always come out on the other end looking at your team and not feeling great about it, like our team last year.
And also, well, and on top of this too, both us and Bill and Russillo also like didn't do it correctly, because if you do it correctly, it's like even more boring. Like
before the draft.
Yeah.
And free agency.
And Bill, and there's like even less guys to pick from. There's like more restrictive things. I'm trying to remember. Somebody tweeted at me the things we did wrong last year. I was like, I know, it was for fun. This was a choice we made for fun, you know, like so. But you know, that was all I could think about when like Russillo blew Simmons' socks off, like drafting Josh Minot, and Bill was like, "Who the fuck is that?" And then I was laughing at Bill for that. But then later they're talking about Isaiah Jackson on the Pacers, and I'm like, I have no idea who that is. That was
okay.
I had no idea. They were talking about it like, oh yeah, it's obvious you would take Isaiah Jackson.
Sure.
Like, maybe I just didn't watch enough Pacers last year, but I have no idea.
Yeah, he was their backup big, and he was a 2021 draft guy from Kentucky. He was the end of the first round pick guy that they got a few years ago. And he was their backup big last year. He was solid. But we'll talk about him a little bit later. Let's lay the ground rules down for what the expansion draft was, which they actually, we didn't even use cap space or anything. We just drafted teams for fun. They stuck to the $90 million cap. They did one player from every team selected in the expansion draft, which they eventually gave up on him. They eventually gave up on by the end of their draft. They protected 8 players from each team. And before we get into kind of how their conversation went, which they spent probably way too much time discussing the protected players, but you know, it's an hour-long podcast, and that's generally the most interesting part of these expansion drafts, which is why our podcasts tend to go 2 hours long, because when we do these kind of exercises, you have to really hit on like every little detail. But there was an interesting question from someone from the You Know Ball Patreon, Austin, who I assume is a Celtics fan, asked and said, Simmons at one point in this draft took Sam Hauser, but he thought that Sam Hauser would be protected. He said Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis, Brogdon, Rob Williams, and Sam Hauser were the guys that he would protect.
Yeah, especially because they didn't, like, all rookies were like auto protected in Simmons, and because it would take place before the draft.
Sure. So Walsh would be protected. Yeah.
Walsh would also be protected. So let me think about that. So
I mean, there's no one else I can. If Walsh is protected, there's not even. I don't even think it's a debate. But that's where they cut. It was cut. This whole podcast in itself was kind of confusing.
Yeah, because they only did like 10 teams.
And they would
they were protecting Pritchard instead of Hauser.
No, there's no way Pritchard would be protected instead of Pritchard's going. They've been trying to, or they've at least been open to the idea of trading Pritchard. He doesn't even have like a big salary for matching purposes, and he's got 1 year left on his deal. They definitely choose Pritchard. They definitely choose Hauser over Pritchard. The Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but maybe that's what Bill and Russillo thought. Like,
I think what happened was they kept forgetting about the rookie rule. as they were doing this, because they chose at one point to not include rookies, because if any expansion draft did happen, it would happen before the draft. So that it was kind of their way to make up for that. But the problem is there are multiple times where this kind of concept was screwed up throughout the process here, because at one point Bill talks about protecting Cam Whitmore, and I'm like, well, Cam Whitmore is a rookie, so
they only did it with like the 5 most intriguing teams where they walked through and did exactly who was going to be protected. When we did it, because we're fucking perverts, we did all 30 teams walk through which 8 guys were going to be protected and why. And I thought it was really funny that they also struggled with the Klay Thompson thing, which I remembered that we really struggled with it when we did it too.
I think one of the guys that when we talked about protected guys, I think I had Denver last year and I left Michael Porter Jr. unprotected because I was so worried about the contract. And now in retrospect, that seems funny because they just won the NBA finals.
Right.
But like a year ago, the conversation around that contract was different. He was finally healthy this year, but everyone was like, oh no, that could end up be kind of fucking the window for Denver if they have a guy on a max that can't even play NBA games.
Yeah.
You know, so
I was trying to trade Jamal Murray for Pascal Siakam last year. So like
OG Anunoby actually.
OG Anunoby worse. Okay, that was
we were on your ass about
that. I mean, I like Jamal Murray too, but I was worried. He looked rough coming back. He did look rough.
He did, this was earlier in the season, and also he not only did he look rough coming back, but if I remember correctly, well, first off, Jamal really is the definition of a playoff riser, and we didn't really know if it was just the bubble or not. But like Jamal's regular season stats and like carrying for when Jokic is off the court is pretty bad, honestly. Like compared to his playoff stats is where he's really been able to carry and boosted his numbers a ton, but we didn't know if that was real or not. But yeah, I still remember being like, I'd rather have Jamal Murray than OG Anunoby, which obviously looks really good now.
Yes, you were correct about that. I'm sorry, Messiah. I tried. I really tried. I was on the tape.
Are you kidding me? He would have asked for 2 more first round picks.
Yeah, that's true. Would have asked for Jokic.
He would have sent the message to the entire league.
I love that. Like there was Pascal Siakam slop, and we just fucking ignored it because of the Raptors.
I'm done
because it's fake.
Okay, whatever. Fake. Who cares? Get back to me when you're actually interested in making a real trade.
Yeah.
So the first team that they discussed on here for the unprotected players was Memphis. And I do think Memphis is the most interesting team because Memphis, once again, is very deep. They run, they probably have about 12 rotation players at any given time. And it's especially hard this year when you're doing this because they didn't even have a first round pick. So it's not like automatically one of your guys is protected. Gigi Jackson was the guy they took in the second round in this past draft. So the amount of guys that they would have to make decisions on is very interesting because the guys who they're definitely going to protect, which are, Bane, Jared Jackson, Marcus Smart, John Morant, and then Steven Adams. Those are the 5 guys that you're protecting. And then it becomes down to the bench guys where you're having to make some choices.
I think Brandon Clark's pretty, even with the injury, I still think that's pretty open and shut.
See, I actually am not sure. And
really? Okay.
I think Brandon Clark's good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I know that I had someone reach out to me like, how did they not protect Brandon Clark? But like, Brandon Clark is kind of sneaky old. He's 26 years old. He came into the draft he was 23 when he was in the 2019 draft, or 22. He won't be able to play a basketball game again until he's 27. And I don't know what that Achilles injury is really going to do to his career. If I'm Memphis, it's a choice that I have to make. Now, I'd probably end up protecting him as like the 8th guy, but it would certainly hurt me for this upcoming season to lose some depth and then also have to protect a guy who's not going to play at all. And we don't know what he's going to look like. And like he signed at the time, I thought his contract was a complete steal. I thought his contract was really good.
It was until he got injured. And
then he got injured and now he's missing a year of that contract. He signed so he's making $12 million. He signed a four-year, $50 million deal, and next year it starts. So he automatically $12.5 million of that he's not playing in the first year, and you can live with the last 3 years because if he comes back and he is the same player, that's great. But I do think it's a decision to make because some of these guys, like, they kind of need to keep their team cheaper, and like some of these guys were just drafted last year or the year before.
Yeah. I would like, so they, when Bill and Russillo ran through this, they left Brandon Clark off. They auto protected Luke Kennard, which I don't know about that. And then they also
Zaire Williams.
Yeah. So that's what I was gonna say. Like, Bill protected Zaire Williams, and I was like, I don't think you've got to wait. I mean, like, he might get taken as like an upside swing, but like, are you really that worried about like losing Zaire Williams? I'm not. Like,
no, based on the first 2 years of Zaire Williams' career, he's not looked like an NBA player at all. Of all these guys, like, some of them are older, like Roddy, and I mean, Laravia is not that much older, but like Conchar has shown that he's 100%, and I know he's also older. Santi Aldama has shown that he's more of an NBA player than Zaire, and like
Xavier Tillman definitely is, like,
Xavier Tillman, and once again, all these guys are a little bit older, but if you're Memphis, you want to win right now, and like part of it is balancing that, but like Zaire, as poor as he looked his first 2 years, you at least got to consider letting him go in this.
If a guy is if a guy is on his rookie scale and he's not going to hit 30 for like 6 to 5 years, I'm really not that worried about how much older they are. Because like, you know, unless you're really banking on them like making a true superstar leap, and I don't think you are with any of these guys. Like, I just take this, you know, I take the bird in hand. You know, with these guys, like to me, Brandon Clark is like way more valuable than like an upside swing for like Zaire Williams. Like, Zaire Williams could hypothetically be better, but I just don't think it's very likely that happens. And it's, you know, Zaire Williams, born on September 12th, 2001. Like, that's bad vibes.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yes. I was just, I did not have that written down. I just was like looking up at their roster, and I noticed he was September 12th, 2001.
He wasn't. It's fucked up. He wasn't around for 9/11, to be honest.
Yeah,
he shows up after. He gets to grieve, but you know,
there's a lot of see, Jaren Jackson Jr. Oh no, never mind. I was going to say Jaren Jackson Jr. David Roddy was born March 27th, 2001, so he was in before. Yeah, that's why we liked Roddy coming out. He was here for it.
Okay, so Roddy is not that much. Like, Roddy and him are basically the same age. Zaire is young because he was a one and done, but he was 20 years old as a rookie. He's already turned 22, or he's going to before the start of the season. And a year from now, he makes $6.1 million. And like, if he's just not an NBA player, unless they know something that we don't know based on his first 2 years, I think I would protect someone who is legit an NBA player, whether that's Clark or even like some of these guys from last year. We talked about Laravia and Roddy and our guy Kenny Lofton as well. Even with those guys, like, we know Conchar and Santi Aldama are NBA players. Like, they have played in their rotation the last 2 years. And I kind of think I'd lean towards protecting them, unless there's something that I just don't know about Zaire Williams based on his first 2 seasons. So,
and I just like $14 million for like Luke Kennard. Like, unless you're planning on like making a trade, but they're like running out of unless you want to like pool Brandon Clark and Luke Kennard at some point. But like, I don't know. Like, I'm guessing you probably want to keep Marcus Smart. Like, you probably don't want to trade Marcus Smart because only a fucking dumbass franchise would ever trade a guy like that. But like, if you were, but you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I thought it was weird that they were just automatically like, yeah, Luke Kennard's are like in. I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he would be another guy that's on the bubble. I guess they do value maybe they view the contract as tradable, and they also think that Memphis really needs spacing, and that Kennard was, you know, at a minimum a knockdown shooter. But I don't know if Kennard's ever going to be able to play deep into the playoffs, to be honest. And if you're Memphis, you got to start thinking about those things. Like Memphis has been a team that's been really good in the regular season. And so far, I know they're young, but so far has disappointed in the playoffs. And you need to kind of start thinking about what kind of guys work deeper into the playoffs. Yeah, Memphis is one of the harder ones to do, but I'm with you in that I would consider Kennard and Zaire as expendable, probably more so than some of these other guys. But at least Kennard has one elite NBA skill that's going to be beneficial towards the team in the regular season. So I might keep him as like the eighth guy. And like you said, I do think it's worth it to have the tradable salary around because they still have all their picks, basically. They just traded that one, and you guys got the Golden State pick for next year. But like they have their own picks moving forward. And if they need to do another trade, if Jeremy Grant is available at the deadline and they need to include a first round pick to get him, then that's something that they'll probably consider doing.
That would be pretty nice for them, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like I like
Luke
that.
Kennard, and Portland might be desperate to get off the deal. Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard, and a first round pick for Jeremy Grant or something like that. And like Memphis has been hunted. The reason why they traded for Marcus Smart was because there were no good wings available. If a good wing becomes available, you have a tradable contract, you have all your picks. Like, I think that those are the kind of things that they'll be thinking about moving forward. But Memphis is definitely one of the harder teams to pick for in this. The other thought experiment here that they kind of ran into, and I think that we probably will in our expansion draft as well, was Ryen Russillo left Moody exposed, and Bill had Gary Payton exposed. And I think they definitely ended up landing on Gary Payton being the one who's unexposed. But the Moody, I guess Kuminga's just kind of because he's so young and they took him so high 2 years ago. And because he, at least in theory, has some trade value and some upside and has shown some things in his first 2 years, they're keeping him over Moody and Payton. But the Payton versus Moody question was interesting to me because it really is kind of are you still worried about, just winning right now? Or do you want to have that potential for the future of a guy like Moody in his third or fourth year can really pop off versus Gary Payton, who, has struggled to stay healthy. He's entering his 30s. He's on a good contract. And when he's healthy, he's great. But it's like he's really only had one really good NBA season versus Moody, who's had no good NBA seasons.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And is now going into year 3.
Yes.
And like I like Moody as a prospect in the draft, but he's been kind of underwhelming so far in his career. Like he's had some moments for sure. I remember one game in the Dallas series, he had a really good game. But like I thought it was an interesting thought experiment for a team like Golden State, who's kind of at this crossroads.
Yeah. It's shit or get off the pot. Like you can't. I get that. Like you had all these injuries and you want to like do well by these picks that you made, but like, sorry, you made up your mind when you re-signed Draymond, but like this offseason, like, and you traded Jordan Poole, which I think was absolutely the right decision. You brought in Chris Paul, like this, you're winning right now. And you have another year of sending, Moses Moody, maybe somebody gets hurt and he gets put in the rotation, but he's still not going to be very good. He's just not going to play enough like to be the guy that you want. And Gary Payton was a NBA champion for you. Like, that he can help you win a title because he literally did it. So I think that's a pretty open and shut case. I thought that was kind of weird. Like, I think Moses Moody is fine, but like, this is not Moses Moody 2 years ago when I would have been like, no, like you have no idea how good that guy could be. Like, I don't, I'm all right. I'm all right with that coming back to bite me in the ass from the Warriors. I feel good about that bet. Let me just put it that way.
So the thing with Moses Moody is that he's barely played in his NBA career. He played 63 games this year, but he only averaged 13 minutes a game. He clearly doesn't have Kerr's trust. He's not like, when he was coming out, I thought that he was, I liked him as a kind of a glue role player type guy who could be a 3-and-D dude. His athleticism isn't quite there to be like a really lockdown defender. He can get kind of burnt at the point of attack sometimes. And the 3-point shooting has been not as great as I anticipated. A lot of guys in his archetype take, like Chuck from Chucky Darts always talks about these guys like Isaiah Joe, Moses Moody. They kind of take to get into like a little bit further into their 20s to really pop off, because they need to add strength and they need to kind of just get to the NBA level of average strength to be able to hang defensively. And then once they do, they can have really nice careers. But like Moody's 21 right now. He's about to turn 22. You know, I think if you're basing this on winning right now versus potentially having a guy who could be maybe your 4th or 5th starter in a few years, I think you kind of have to go with the Gary. I think I agree with you. I think Moody, the thing is like they were worried like, well, if Moody's available, I think I literally took him with the first pick in the last expansion draft.
And then on top of all of this, you also drafted Brandon Podcast, who's also, you know, like one of those guys is suffering, you know what I'm saying? Like both of those guys are not going to play, you know.
Yeah.
I would rather, at this point, I would rather see what, you know, I love Brandon Podcast, so I'm biased here, but like I would rather Brandon Podcast's like shooting upside and scoring and everything like that. I would much rather gamble on that and having that guy play minutes early on and see what's going on with him versus waiting another year on the Moses Moody thing to come together. Like, I don't think Moses Moody is like not an NBA player. He's not going to develop on this team. It's like Romeo, like I'm not doing a bit like Romeo Langford and some of these other like guys on these teams that just have a billion draft picks and a lot of, you know, these young guys who get drafted on teams that want to win now. They just can't find the court. That's why Peyton Pritchard's so pissed. Like, it's a funny joke, like, haha, Peyton Pritchard is demanding a trade. Ferk, like, you know, another guy who like demanded a trade despite not being that good. Like, it's just like if you're a young guy who's like on a really good team and you never play, it's frustrating because you can't do anything. And I don't think Moses Moody is ever going to get the opportunity before he is a restricted free agent to do any of this. So I think it's fine to just cut bait right now. And he will get picked. You'll lose him, but you know.
Well, Gary Payton gets picked too. So like if you're okay, I mean, honestly, it might be ownership might be pushing for let Gary Payton walk because we save money on the tax. To be honest, like he makes, I think Moody probably makes half as much as Gary Payton does.
Unironically, that's a really good point. They probably do leave him unpredictable because that would be huge for them. That would be like $30 million.
It's a lot of money when you take in how much money they have to pay for the tax. Yeah, that's probably what they would end up doing, to be honest. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting one. There
took us 12 minutes to get where Bill and Russillo were. We were like, oh, they're so stupid for leaving Gary Payton. And then I thought about it. I was like, oh, wait, yeah, the money.
Yeah, that's and I don't think they were thinking like that. I think that they were thinking just pure basketball terms. Yeah. But that's kind of that's at least part of it you have to take into consideration. But another one, and this one was interesting, was for the Lakers, a little bit further down their roster. It was the D'Angelo Russell, who obviously they both hate D'Angelo Russell, versus Taurean Prince for the last spot. And I just love Bill's obsession with Taurean Prince, who like
he loves him.
It's like he's like a fine, but like, I think we've literally called him the definition of an average NBA rotation player, like a 7th man, 8th man. And Bill just like thinks he's like just waiting for the right opportunity to really pop and like show what he's worth on his next team, when in reality he's just like a serviceable bench wing who can like make threes and do some things.
I love Bill just shitting on Grant Williams all year and then being like, Taurean Prince is awesome. like one of these guys,
same kind of player.
Yeah. I don't know. One of these guys has like been good in like multiple playoff series. Like, has had huge moments in multiple game 7s of playoff series, but like, you know, you do you, Bill. I also, this is also very funny because this was another time where it's like, maybe I'm not in the weeds enough, but like there was a lot of Max Christie talk in this one.
I actually kind of agreed with him. Maybe I'm
Really?
biased.
Okay.
Maybe I'm biased on the summer league. He looked awesome in summer league, and he's 20, I think. Now look, maybe I'm a little bit too high on the summer league performance, coupled with the Lakers just nailing second round picks all the time, and he was like the 34th pick in the 2022 draft. But like, yeah, I mean, look, Christie might be nothing, but I think that was the conversation they were having, was because it was Christie versus Taurean Prince versus D'Angelo Russell. And if you're a team and you're thinking about who do we leave unprotected, I mean, personally, I think that I would just leave Taurean Prince unprotected. I mean, you just signed him for $4 million. The league showed they clearly don't value him. It's possible he does. Like, I guess he would have to get picked, because every team kind of is going to lose someone in this expansion draft if you do the full exercise through. But I don't know. Like, I kind of think that, like, D'Angelo Russell is going to be an important player for you in the regular season. And as Bill has pointed out, they can trade him later. Like, he's obsessed with this idea that he thinks they're good. He kept saying, like, oh, they signed that contract to trade him at the deadline. And I'm like, well, they signed him to a 2-year contract and he has a second-year player option on it. So that's not necessarily the case, but like a year from now, it would be nice to have 20 million in expiring salary to trade for whoever, whether the idea that he always brings up, like it's like Kyrie Irving or someone like that. And maybe you have to leave Christie unprotected, because they said, like, how do you sell that to LeBron and AD? But I'm kind of, I don't know. I liked what I saw from Max Christie a lot for his age in summer league.
What about this though? Because the Lakers have the draft rights to Chinemalu Alenu.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, we love him.
Yeah, so he was the 59th overall pick in the 2009 draft. He's still only 36.
Let's go.
Played 3 years for Texas A&M between 2006 and 2009. Do you think he could help the Lakers? So do you think they will protect him?
It's hard to say, really.
Why did they? I guess they just leave that because, like, they could like send the draft rights like in like a attachment.
You have to trade something.
Yeah, instead of it being like the top 55 protected second.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess that might actually be worth something for the Lakers because they have so many seconds out the door.
Yeah,
that like if they do need to make a trade like that,
there was a guy Morey drafted in like 2006, like or 7, like one of his first years as a GM for the Rockets, and he held on to his rights until he left. Like Raphael Stone had to dump this guy's rights to another team. He just never came over. And it was always like, it was like the Vasilij Micic thing where they were like, is he going to come over? And he never did. And it's just something to have. It's like, why the Phoenix Suns would love to have a bunch of rights to guys so they have something to trade so that they don't have to do the second round pick scheme.
Yeah, we're gonna send them the Yam Madar rights.
Yeah. Oh God. So yeah, who apparently doesn't even start in the EuroLeague.
Yeah, Draymond would love to have him.
Just a culture guy, you know.
Yeah, culture. Yeah,
I ideologically he would align with. But yeah, I just thought this exercise, this part of the exercise was funny. I think that they would have to choose between Taurean Prince and Max Christie, and if you're the Lakers, like I said, like we just signed Taurean Prince for $4 million using the biannual exception. The league clearly doesn't care about Taurean Prince.
Yeah.
And like, if we lose Taurean Prince, we'll be fine. I don't know. Like I said, like he's going to be your 8th man next year.
Yeah.
D'Angelo Russell sucks in the playoffs, but he is probably going to start for them or be their 6th man.
Yeah. And also, well, the other good point they had is like, you know, he's there for your Kyrie Irving money when Luka asks out, you know, so like, don't
fuck that up.
Yeah, don't fuck that up. Well, he's 17 million. You know, you don't even have it. You got paid $5 million more than Austin Reeves, and there's a reason for that. Like, you know, because they are just keeping salary matching. So yeah, I agree. I think they would protect D'Angelo Russell, not even necessarily just as a basketball player, but because of what he means to their future plans. Let's say.
Yeah. So let's get into a few other ones that were protected here before we get into the actual draft, where if you sign up for the Ball Patreon, you'll be able to hear our thoughts on the actual draft that they did. Protecting Isaiah Hartenstein over Quentin Grimes.
I like it, to be honest. I think I would do that too. Yeah. I really like Isaiah Hartenstein.
Over Quentin Grimes?
I know he's really good, but I don't know.
My thing with Hartenstein is like, we do this every year with backup centers, and like, how many teams is he starting on? 6? Like, I say, like, I don't care what the analytics say. Grimes is a 2-3 who can make open threes. He's actually a good high volume or decent volume 3-point shooter. He's 22, I believe, 23, athletic.
Yeah, 23 in 100 days right now. So
23.
Yeah.
He's athletic. He's shown some burst and pop working off the ball. I think that he's going to be a 4th or 5th guy on a good team for the next decade. And I think that giving up Isaiah Hartenstein, who I believe has 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah. I mean, well, the proof is in the pudding because spoiler alert, he goes number 1 overall.
Yeah,
we'll leave him unprotected.
I think they did that so they had someone to take.
Yes.
Because otherwise you're like, this is, who are we? Like, at least Grimes, you could be like, all the things I just said, young, athletic, shown some pop. I took him in the Stars in Plain Sight draft as a flyer late in that, just in case he kind of ends up popping later in his career.
I don't know. There's something about Knicks players where like, I feel like do you remember when like Alonzo Trier was supposed to be like a guy, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah, but he was on a tanking Knicks team. He sucked.
I get it, but I'm just saying like, I don't know. Like there's a little bit of a New York bump. Like I know we have the Boston Media Mafia. Maybe one of this like trio of like Deuce McBride, Quentin Grimes, and Sixth Man of the Year guy. Why am I quickly? Like one of those guys is going to be really good, but I think 2 of those guys are going to like suck in the long term aggregate. Like,
I think Quickly and Grimes are clearly good NBA player, or at least
you're
starter level NBA.
You're probably right. I'm doing my like vibes based thing where just
I probably am white. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're probably right, but I think I'm just doing my like vibes based thing where like I see the Knicks. There's a cursed energy to the Knicks where like they can't be happy. So I really think one of these guys is taking a step back this year.
No, don't get me wrong. I think making Grimes untouchable in a Donovan Mitchell trade is ridiculous. Yeah. But I also think that if you are now choosing between him and Isaiah Hartenstein, who is one of the best backup centers in the NBA and can start for you sometimes and is a good player, but like is just more replaceable than finding a 3-and-D 2-3 who is very hard to find in general.
Can I just say the obvious thing, the thing that I was actually thinking during this next section? Why is RJ Barrett protected again?
That was a question that I had too. Yeah. I will say this much. I don't think they would leave him unprotected in a draft.
I don't think they would either because it's
if he has another bad year though. If they do this draft a year from now and RJ Barrett is terrible again next year, like he was this past season, that's when you're like, oh shit, we might have to leave. And I don't even know with that contract if he's bad again. I don't know if any team's going to take him.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Like I don't know. I would leave him unprotected right now and just like. That's a freebie if you get off that one. Like, yep. Are you going to start? Like, would you rather start RJ Barrett or Quickly or Grimes? Like, RJ I get Barrett. He's a little bigger, but sure. Like, like, is that going to kill you? Like, Josh Hart can play. Like, somewhere you just re-sign Josh Hart to a giant extension. So
I was going to say, I guess my question with the Knicks roster construction is that it feels like they are going to eventually have some positional overlap and redundancy because. Yeah. You have Brunson, Hart can play the 2-3 and Grimes can play the 2-3. So I guess you're fine there. But then like, I don't know. It's just a strange roster construction because you also have Quickly, who's a guard, and Brunson, who's your best player, who's a guard. And like, it just feels like they're very guard heavy. I guess they're just planning to play a little bit smaller.
I will give them this. The thing they're really missing are 4s. Like good 4s, and that's like the easiest player to find in the NBA.
Yeah, exactly.
But like if they had the money for it, they would love to have just taken John Collins for like No reason. Probably
they
actually
had Obi
not
Toppin, who's like Obi Toppin's like diet John Collins, basically.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, you can always get guys like that though.
Yeah.
You can always get a 4 that doesn't matter. So like
Sure.
I think it's like an okay problem to have. But
there were a few other teams that I thought was interesting too. They did not protect Jalen Johnson over, if you want to talk about contracts, DeAndre Hunter, who was involved in that Pascal Siakam rumor that was very clearly not real. But if you want to talk about getting off contracts, DeAndre Hunter and Sadiq Bey, I think I would just keep Jalen Johnson. I would let DeAndre Hunter, if a team wants to take DeAndre Hunter's contract, be my guest.
Are we sure Jalen Johnson's worse than, like, money aside, are we sure he's worse than Hunter? Like, because I'm not. I'm on record. I'm kind of a Jalen Johnson build, to be honest. I've got a little bit of the played well against my team, so now he's good.
I think he's fine. I think the issue is that the Hawks roster construction is also an issue because they don't have the spacing to, and like even with dumping John Collins, who fucked up their spacing, they still play 2 bigs in Capella and Okongwu, who can't shoot at all. And then they also have guys that, they would love to get more minutes like Jalen Johnson, but it's just tough when DeJounte Murray's your second best player. And Trae Young really thrives with maximized spacing. Like we saw 2 years ago when they made the conference finals with all that spacing around him. Like,
I can't believe Trae Young's going to be back, man. I really thought he was going to get traded this offseason. Like I would have bet money on it. And
stay tuned.
Okay.
I don't think trade deadline. I think next offseason.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this is good. I think the Hawks, I don't know. We'll talk about it later. Sure. Let's save that for later. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I would keep Jalen Johnson, who ends up getting selected in this draft, over honestly, and like Sadiq Bey's kind of in that Taurean Prince where he's just like a replaceable level wing to me. He's a little younger. So, yeah. He's a little younger. So like,
and he's like had like a 50 piece in the league. You know what I'm saying? Like he's got like, I get that, like his average.
He played really well in the play-in game for them too. I don't know if you remember this, but he played great defense on Jimmy. That was that. He has at least showed me some things that I'm like, I understand why you would keep him over a question mark like Jalen Johnson. But DeAndre Hunter's the guy that I'm letting.
Yeah, absolutely. No, DeAndre Hunter's bad. He and RJ Barrett are the same player.
And then the last one on here, Bill protected your boy Davion Mitchell over Trey Lyles, Sasha Venkov, who they just got from the EuroLeague, and Chris Duarte, who they just traded for.
Let's go.
I was how can you justify
Bill knows ball. No, Bill knows ball.
Trey Lyles was an important rotation player for them last year. Sasha,
so was Davion Mitchell.
No, he wasn't. He didn't even play in their playoff rotation, really. He barely played.
He was startling Steph. Because you took the chance of Davion Mitchell away. That was when Steph got his confidence back, and that's why they lost that series.
Yeah, exactly.
You needed to let Davion Mitchell cook in that series, and they didn't do it. So
absolutely gross.
I mean, I'll dropping kayfabe here for that. I mean, Trey Lyles it obviously should be Trey Lyles. I don't like
or Sasha or Duarte. Like they just traded. Maybe not Duarte. But
I'm not a Duarte guy. Like I get if you are, but like I have no idea who the Sasha guy is. So I have no idea.
Well, they just signed him to like a $9 million a year contract. He won EuroLeague MVP. He's
okay. Yeah. So he's like good. Okay.
He's 27. Like I mean, he's older, but like. He's a guy that they got his draft rights in the Harden trade. I think somehow they were like wiggled in there, or there was a trade. I can't remember that they got his
a couple of times because they got Bogdan. They had his draft rights when he came over. Like they're actually kind of sneaky good at like getting these old Euros to come over. Like
it's the only thing they're good at. They actually stole Nemanja Bjelica from us too. We were we agreed to a contract with Nemanja Bjelica back in 2018, the Sixers, and then they were just like, he was like, "Nope, I'm going to sign with the Kings," and I was like, "What the fuck? What is happening?" I don't understand how that happened, but I
love Bjelica. I miss him not being here because guys who like had only ever like read his name would just all of a sudden say Bjelica. Like Nemanja Bjelica.
Oh, yeah, no, actually, Sasha was originally drafted with the Celtics pick. 57th pick in 2017. You guys traded it on draft night to the Cavs. and then the Cavs ended up
for what?
I don't know.
Hold on. This is gonna be my new thing. I'm annoying about.
All right, if you want to hear this, sicko shit, sign up for the Ball Patreon. Link is in the description. We're gonna be doing the rest of this. We're gonna talk about the entire expansion draft that Bill and Russillo did, and yeah, like I said, we're gonna go 2 hours on this. We got plenty of content to go over on here, so sign up for the Ball Patreon. The link is in the description. Check it out if you have not signed up already.